All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a really wild idea, the possibility that our entire universe, I'm talking all the galaxies, the stars, even you and me, might have just emerged from absolutely nothing. Let's talk about the Informational Singularity Hypothesis.
So where do you even start with a question that big? Well, you have to begin with the ultimate mystery, a question that has, kept thinkers up at night for centuries. I mean, this is the biggest origin question there is, right? See, most theories, they always start with something already there. A law of physics, some quantum field, a singularity. But what if the real origin story starts before any of that? What if it starts with absolutely, truly nothing at all?
Now, to even wrap our heads around this, we have to define our main character, pure nothingness. And this isn't just empty space we're talking about. It's a state with literally zero properties, a total and complete void. The hypothesis argues this is the only starting point that doesn't need its own backstory. It just isn't.
But here is where things get really interesting, because a deep, powerful paradox kicks in. It turns out the very concept of a true ultimate nothingness creates a contradiction that might just be powerful enough to build a whole cosmos.
So check out the distinction this slide is making. On one hand, you have pure nothingness. Let's call it a zero. It has no properties. But if that's the only thing that exists, if it's the totality of all reality, then it suddenly gains a property. It has the property of being absolute, of being the one and only thing. So it becomes a one. And just like that, it's not pure nothingness anymore.
And that unsolvable conflict, that wobble between being pure, a zero, and being absolute, a one, creates what this hypothesis calls an irreducible primordial tension. And the thinking here is that this isn't a bug, it's a feature. This constant flicker between two states isn't a flaw, it's an engine, one that's constantly generating pure binary information.
Okay, so how in the world do you get from a flickering binary code to galaxies and stars and planets? Well, the idea is that it doesn't just happen in one big leap. Instead, reality emerges through three distinct hierarchical levels.
It's a journey. We're going to start at level 0 with that raw pre-physical information. Then, at level 1, we'll see how that information starts to organize itself into the very first rules. And finally, at level 2, those rules crystallize into the geometry of the universe that we can actually see and measure.
Okay, I know this slide looks pretty intense, but just think of it as our map for this whole journey. Don't worry about all the tiny details right now. Just follow the flow from the very top, that irreducible ontological tension at level 0, down through the emergence of rules in the middle at level 1, all the way to the bottom, to the familiar geometry of our universe at level 2. We're going to break down each step.
Let's start at the beginning with level 0. And this is absolutely key to get. We are not talking about our physical world yet. Forget space, forget time, forget energy. None of that exists here. This is a realm of pure logic, where that tension between 0 and 1 is just spitting out an endless stream of binary data.
And here's the kicker. When you actually run a simulation of this process, the information it generates isn't just random garbage, like the TV static you see on the right. No way. Look at the image on the left. It has this deep, intricate, almost fractal-like structure. It's coherent. It's got structure.
In fact, it gets even better. When you analyze billions of these simulated bits, you find these incredibly complex, ordered patterns at all different scales. This isn't just random noise. It's a huge sign that a rich, non-trivial structure is emerging from the simplest possible starting point imaginable.
So you might be asking, how is that even possible? Well, think about other places where we see amazing complexity just emerge out of really simple rules. Think about Conway's game of life, where a few simple rules create these elaborate, unpredictable patterns. Or think about how water molecules, just by following basic physical laws, spontaneously arrange themselves into the stunning beauty of a snowflake. It's that same kind of idea, but, on a cosmic scale.
Now, let's move up to level 1. Here, all those coherent patterns that we saw bubbling up from level 0 start to act like a kind of primordial grammar. They aren't just random bits anymore. They're becoming the building blocks of rules. It's almost as if the universe is learning its own language, creating the very first laws for how information itself gets to behave.
And that brings us to level 2. This is where those grammatical rules from level 1 all combine, they interact, and they crystallize into the universe we actually recognize. Think of it like watching water freeze into a beautiful, complex ice crystal. All that chaotic pre-physical information finally settles into a stable, geometric structure, and boom, you have the dimensions of space, the arrow of time, and the fundamental forces that govern our physical reality.
Okay, so what does this all actually mean? If this hypothesis is even remotely on the right track, it has some absolutely profound implications for how we understand reality itself.
The really big takeaway here is that reality, at its deepest, most fundamental core, might be purely informational. And suddenly, weird phenomena like quantum entanglement, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, don't seem so spooky anymore. They're just a natural result of everything being connected at this fundamental information level. You could even start to think about consciousness as just a highly complex, self-aware pattern inside this giant cosmic data stream.
This also totally reframes our cosmic origin story. The Big Bang might not have been the absolute beginning of everything. It could have been more like a cosmic phase transition, that specific moment that all that pre-physical information finally froze or crystallized into the spacetime we all live in.
Yeah, this quote really nails it. It suggests that the most fundamental stuff in our universe isn't matter or energy, but pure information. Information that was born from the paradox of nothingness itself. Everything we can see and touch, from the smallest little quark to the biggest quasar, is just a manifestation of this underlying code.
And all of this leaves us with one final, truly mind-bending question to chew on. If our universe is fundamentally just information, born from a logical paradox, then how different is it really from an unbelievably advanced simulation? It forces us to ask, what is the true nature of our reality?